Hey, balls of magic. Welcome back to How to Be Queer podcast. My name is Alex. My pronouns are they, them.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Kimmy.
My name. Yes, hi, Kim. Pronouns she, her.
This is like our 18th time to do this episode. That's fine. You were singing a song earlier on, but I just wanted to go over one more time.
Do you want me to sing it?
Do it.
You won't break my soul. You won't break my soul.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a huge Beyonce fan. Like I love her because she's freaking Beyonce.
Totally.
But like I'm not like a super fan of Beyonce.
Yeah.
But that song, and I cycle to it, and I'm like, you will not break my soul. I love that song.
We'll talk about power in repetition because she just says it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's like, right. Yeah. And then I go to like in Good Will Hunting when Robin Williams tells Matt Damon over and over again, wasn't your fault. Wasn't your fault. Wasn't your fault.
And that's how he cracks him.
And then you hear, you won't break my soul. And you're like, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah.
No, you won't break my soul.
No, you won't. I'm here, motherfuckers.
I will say Good Will Hunting, probably a movie that I cried like I think I was ugly crying in that theater.
Yeah.
Like the sobbing, the sniffling, the snot, the whole thing like that. That movie broke my soul. It really did. Mm-hmm. I love that movie. I probably haven't seen it in like 10 years.
I still think about that line. I got to go see About a Girl.
Oh,
that's you.
Hey, this is going to work out well. Should we do like the business things we're supposed to do before we just like full on go into the flirting?
Sounds good. So we're going to give a shout out, of course, to our sponsors, Youth Scene. Go check them out on youthseen.org. Hit the donate button. It's a giant button that says donate.
You cannot miss it.
You can't miss it. Throw them some cash that will continue to support all of the incredible work that they do in the community for the QT BIPOC and LGBTQ communities and their families and youth.
I think people should just give all the money to them.
Yeah.
Just give all the money.
All the money.
Yeah. So what are we talking about today?
Power.
Because I know we're usually super well organized and like a really, really high class podcast here. Do I need to say like that we talk about like all the things, like we swear, we talk about sex, we talk about queerness, we talk about jacked up shit that's going on in the world. Is this like a trigger warning? Does that count?
Cody Rigsby today on my workout talked about someone had written him and said, I liked you better when you
swore less,
cursed less. And Cody's like, where the fuck did you get that idea? Did I ever tell you that I wasn't going to fucking cuss? Show me the receipts, because
and he said that, for his classes, you have to say, I'm okay with explicit content.
Yeah.
And he's like, so you said you were okay with it and now you're complaining that you got it.
You listened. So
you listen.
Why are you mad?
So here's what I'm going to say again. Our podcast, not for children.
Not for children. We talk about all sorts of things.
Oh, we do. We talk about things that are of adult content. And you know what? We like to swear. Especially when I get mad, I like to swear.
Fuck yeah, me too.
Fuck yeah. Okay, so power episode. We've been talking about power for a while. I don't know. And I'm not exactly sure why it's been such a topic between us lately. But people have told us when we get feedback about our podcast, the thing that they love is they feel like they're sitting at our kitchen table.
Mm-hmm.
I take it that that's like a nice way to compliment us about being like, what the hell are you two doing?
Or that we're accessible and friendly. Of course we are.
Let's go with that one.
If you come to our house, we're going to either offer you a spindrift or a glass of wine.
Sometimes both. Because sometimes I have a glass of wine, but then I have to have a spindrift because I'm trying to sleep at night.
Yeah.
It sucks getting old.
It does.
Can I just say that? It just there's some things like for this power episode, there's parts of getting older because you step into your power and you claim it and you don't give a fuck, right?
Yeah.
That's the part about getting older that is what makes getting older awesome. But can I tell you, I want my fucking second glass of wine. I just fucking want it because I want it.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 3 a.m., I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? And then it's the spiral.
Yeah.
Of why am I staring at the ceiling? Why did I have that second glass of wine? Why did I think that? And carbs and fat and salt was good for me. Why are my jeans tight? What am I doing? I'm having an existential crisis. That's the part of getting older that I'm like, fuck this shit.
Mm-hmm.
I want that second glass of wine.
Me too.
Can't have it.
Nope.
And that's what the book, because I think I've mentioned it on here before. I've been trying to follow this menopause manifesto book.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep shouting out about it because if you're in your late 40s and you're in that perimenopause thing, it's kind of a mind fuck. Like it just is. All of a sudden you're like, what is my body doing? I don't understand. And at the same time, Alex, I'm letting my gray hair grow in and I'm looking at myself in the mirror and I'm like, this is all a mistake. Like,
So
what am I doing?
You're doing your best to step into into your power.
I am doing my best to step into my power, but at the same time, I'm like, can I step back 20 years in time? That feels way more comfortable.
Well, I mean, either way, it'd be stepping into your power. Like I have the power to dye my hair, or I have the power to grow it out.
Well, and I have the power that even after I grow out my gray hair, if I don't like it, well, then who the fuck cares? I do what I want. It's my head.
That's right.
But it is a little unnerving, right? That all of a sudden you are starting to see yourself through this lens of like, I really, really, really love the woman that I've grown into, but from a body and beauty perspective, I'm like, what the hell is happening to me? I just mentioned it because I'm not alone.
True.
No, so can I ask you a super personal question?
Okay.
So,
I mean, sure. Yeah, of course.
I mean, we've talked about it. I know I can ask you one, but I'm like, I'm going to throw a curveball for you. You love when I do this.
Okay.
When it's like nowhere in the notes of anything we've even remotely talked about.
Okay.
Do you think, because you've talked about the fact that you take hormone therapy.
Yeah.
Do you think it's aiding you in aging? Because you don't really look like you're aging. Do you think it's helping you to not age?
Is it preserving me?
Like, I'd like to think that like the olives and wine are preserving me, but I don't think they are. Do you know if there's like anti-aging benefits to being on hormone therapy?
No, I don't know. I've never heard of that. I can only just say exercise and water, and that I actually just love who I am, which I think maybe sometimes I don't know.
I don't know. You look really good though, and I feel like a shriveled. Like I don't know what's up with me today.
I dress like a 20-year-old. I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
I don't think you dress like a 20-year-old.
No. Okay.
No, you got cute little style.
I think sometimes like last night we went to dinner and I was like all in this crisis about like, what should I wear? I look too young, too old, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, the voice in our heads sometimes,
then,
right?
Yeah. And then finally, like you heard me say, I'm like, step into your power of what shirt will I wear?
Well, because I do think that clothing is an expression of who we are, right?
Yeah.
And listen, you put a cute outfit on me with a good hair day and like 8 hours of sleep, which like very rarely happens. And I will power like through my day being like, I am cute today. It's just as I get older, those days are less and less and less, which is kind of what fucks with you, right?
I think it reminds me of like, there's the power that we're talking about, stepping into our power, but also like the energetic vibration that you feel when you feel good.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's go back to the second glass of wine problem. That second glass of wine does not, it's like, can you fucking wake up and realize it's going to feel good for about 20 minutes. And then for the next 24 hours, it's going to feel like shit. Don't do the second glass of wine.
Boring.
It is boring. I want to be tipsy and flirty and fun. And my body's like, yeah, you do, but not that much.
Maybe we just make sure we drink like 32 ounces of water before bed.
Okay, but therein lies the problem, right? Because can I just name it? Nobody wants to. Number one, have we ever, and I know I see you drinking out of your gallon jug it's like a weapon. Like if God help someone if they ever tried to come up with you and assault you while you're holding that jug. Because you would just boom.
Pretty much.
Like you don't even need the pepper spray. Like just hit them with your water bottle that you carry around all day. But that's the thing though about drinking that much water. Like and I swear to God, it's all fucking connected of like why we're just screwed in life. Because number one, I've had 2 children. So anytime drinking a ton of water, like just don't make me laugh too hard, right? Because that's problematic. But then trying to go to sleep at night after you've had that much water, I'm like, what the hell? We're just gonna be up peeing all night.
I mean, eventually like your bladder gets used to it, but I was thinking about that night that I'm doing that dance move with our 13-year-old. I'm like peeing myself. I'm like, spank him. I gotta make sure I shower tonight.
You were doing the sturdy with her.
Yeah.
And so if you don't know what the sturdy dance is, our 13-year-old was teaching it to Alex, and I'm like, and she was like, Mom, try this. And I'm like, oh, fuck no, I'm not going to try this. You guys are doing great. But it's almost like, it reminds me of like, because you go down on the floor and you're like kicking each leg out.
It reminds me of I don't know if,
and what is the name for that dance? Like I don't remember.
Like in the Nutcracker, like the Russian soldier dance where they squat and kick.
Yeah.
It looks kind of like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, you were doing it and you lost a little pee.
I did. And I had 2 C-sections. I don't know what the fuck that's up with.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it happens to everybody.
It just happens to everyone.
That has the anatomy that we do.
I guess so.
That's fucked up. Does it happen to men or people? Does it happen to people with a penis?
Oh, that's a good. I don't have one. That's a good question. If you have a penis and you pee yourself, this is listener. It's only 2 p.m. We're not drinking, I promise.
I swear, I really feel bad sometimes for people but I guess you willingly come back to keep listening to us.
If you have a penis and you pee yourself when you squat or jump, would you please email us at howtobequeerpodcast@gmail.com?
Like, I'm dying to know.
Yeah.
I'm dying to know. Yep. Okay. If this is just another thing that just happens to people with the anatomy that we have, because sometimes as those people, I feel like we are just fucked in life.
I would love to know what Brofriend is thinking right now. Brofriend.
Oh God, I just can only imagine the notes I'm going to get.
All right, moving on.
We've been having a lot of conversations about power, and as we get older, how do we step into it as allies, as all should we pause for a second?
No,
it's the compressor.
Yeah, it's fine.
Because, it's never a calm day around here.
It'll probably be fine.
It's going to be fine. Okay. So we've been just talking about power. Who has it? How do you use it? What does it look like to yield it? What does it look like to step into it? We've just been having a lot of conversations about this recently.
And there's got to be different kinds. I mean, it feels like that.
Oh, absolutely. I think there are. Like, usually when I'm thinking of power, I'm thinking of 2 things. I'm thinking of, how am I owning myself?
Mm-hmm.
How am I owning my own experiences, I don't love this word, my own journey? Because I think the visibility of stepping into that power inevitably reaches somebody, so that we feel less alone and more connected. And then I also think of power in terms of allyship. Right. And how, power dynamics, and how I am hopefully always attempting to use my power for good and yielding it. And also when this gets into like advocacy work and stuff, which we can talk about later as we go through this, but there's all sorts of different ways in which I'm looking at power. Mm-hmm. But you recently, can we just like dive into like the really weird shit that happened this week?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's just address that and get it out of the way.
So speaking of listener mail, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. Let's talk about listener mail.
Okay. So I got a fake cease and desist letter from a dear listener.
Does that listener also carry a whiteboard?
Possibly. Never used his name on this podcast. You're welcome. But basically he wants us to stop talking about him. Or he thinks anyway. So that was kind of a joke of like, listener mail, but I got a cease and desist from the person that,
well, we've been talking about him.
We have, yeah. On a serious note,
we've just never named him.
The episodes that were based with the it was never about queerness episodes. So power coming in, he is using what he believes to be power to dominate and control. And he talked about hearsay and slander and defamation of character. And hearsay is, you have would you actually, it's from someone else.
Yeah. Like hearsay is from somebody else. You weren't there. Somebody told you. You're basing an opinion or something off of information that you didn't witness yourself or happened to yourself. And that, Alex, is not what you're doing.
Right.
You and I are both talking about our specific lived experience.
Yeah.
And in speaking about that lived experience, that is claiming your power.
Right. And so getting this letter was very, I opened it and laughed.
Oh yeah.
Because I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This is ridiculous. And it continues on that narrative of, he believes I'm not allowed to tell my story, and that no one else, that the arrogance that there couldn't possibly be any other perspective except his. And I'm like, you know what, fucker? There is, and life and the world is going to sometime teach you that you're not in control. You can't quiet another person's voice. You shouldn't quiet another person's voice. And my power coming in, like, I am going to tell my experiences and my story in my life when I want, to whom I want, wherever I want. So you can fuck all the way off.
You won't break my soul. You won't break my soul. Sorry, I felt a dance moment. Come on.
And when you shared, I'm gonna connect this up to the clip from Hannah Gadsby. She's got a special on Netflix that's probably maybe 10 years old.
Yeah.
And she says, you destroy the woman, you destroy the power. I will not allow my story to be destroyed.
That's right.
And so it's like, yeah, I lived for decades with a person who did everything he could to destroy my story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, no, stop wasting my fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
Stop hurting your children. Stop hurting everyone around you. Stop hurting me, and just stop. The same exact thing that you're saying, you're telling me to do. You're telling me don't tell the truth. Boo hoo. I don't fucking care.
Yeah, I don't care either. And truthfully, when you told me you got that letter, like I think I was crying laughing because it came via certified mail. I'm like, just another way to control.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really transparent.
Yeah.
I don't like what you're saying about me. So I am going to try to exert my power and control over you to once again scare you out of telling a story.
Yeah.
Well, let me just remind our listeners, it didn't work out well for this person the last time they tried to threaten and demand things from us.
Right.
It's not going to work out well again because you are dealing with two people that are stepping into their power. And I will tell you, motherfucker, you're not going to break my soul, and you're certainly not going to break your soul is not going to be broken. So you can take your phony letters, and you know what? If you want your story out there so bad, you got a whiteboard. You can write it down on that whiteboard and flash it to the motherfucking world. That's what I have to say about that. Just hope your elbow doesn't bump it and erase it, you piece of shit.
Right. Okay. So before I move on, I'm going to share with the listeners. If you would like to read, I wrote my own little response back, and I did not send it back to him, but I put it out on our blog spot.
Good.
Because it is my story to tell, and I will do it wherever I want to. So October also being National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So if you go to howtobequeer.blogspot.com,
you'll see your longer response.
You'll see my long response. And I wrote that for me and for anyone else who needs to know that they are not alone.
I'm going to just say one more thing about this and then we'll move on. But for our listeners out there, like, I can't imagine, Alex, that you and I are going to spend any more time talking about this person.
Yeah, no.
In fact, I don't think we would have even talked about it today, except for the fact that, we got a cease and desist letter. And I'm always like, you and I've always said this. The reason we put those podcasts out was because we know because we get letters from people that there are other people in this same system of abuse where the court at times is going to feel like it's almost defending the abuser, and you're stuck. And so that was the whole reason we wanted to put that story out to begin with is none of us you're never alone. There's always somebody, and sometimes the connection and healing comes from hearing another person's words.
Yeah.
And so that was why we did all of those podcast episodes about it. It wasn't because we wanted to get him in any way. The court system took care of that. He took care of that himself.
Yeah.
It wasn't to get anybody. That being said, I am so done giving this person any space in our lives anymore. That you listeners, you probably will never really hear about it again.
Yeah.
And that is not in reflection of a cease and desist letter. That is a reflection of it's so inconsequential, anything he does at this point.
Yeah.
It just is.
We're gonna focus on what we've always done, which is our energy into building life and creating joy and being authentic and telling stories and telling the truth and just living.
It's just what it is.
Yeah.
So that's where I guess I'm like, take your cease and desist and go choke on it. But
yeah.
Like at the same time, like, yeah, I really don't have anything left to say.
Yeah.
Do you? I mean, I guess it comes up from time to time, especially when we're trying to understand how abuse works.
Yeah. I think I want to just, there's a vulnerability to talking about it, but also always the layer, always circling back over and over and over to the layer of you are not alone. You tell your story to stay connected, because someone trying to control your story silences you, which keeps you disconnected.
Well, and I want to go like let's take a step farther and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but will you indulge me like a little bit to talk about the people that have power and privilege, what they're really doing when they try to silence someone? Because it's something very specific that when you have power and you are a person that is going to be believed, or you're in the center, we talked about the wheel of understanding intersectionality. And when you're in the center of that wheel and you hold power, you will do anything to keep it. And sometimes that means what we're seeing right now, which is I'm going to demand and scare, and you will do this, or I will insert whatever threat that it is.
Yeah.
Like it's purposeful what they're doing. I'm trying to keep power. I'm trying to keep my power. So I'm going to demean and threaten and harass you until you just do what I want.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's just wrong. Yeah. Every person deserves to have their voice and experience heard. You can't control that.
Yeah. If you think that you're going to get connection and through the world of doing that, it's completely the opposite effect.
Yeah, because what ends up happening is, you destroy the woman, you try to destroy the power. Well, I guess we're just not going to allow our story to be destroyed.
And I'm taking a couple lines from Hannah's, from Hannah's special of paint the world a better place. That if you fear, this is the part where that really if you fear difference, you learn nothing. And so if you are in the center of that power wheel, because you believe you have the arrogance and to think that you know it all and know all the perspectives, you are just
deluding yourself.
Exactly the opposite of strength.
Yeah. She said a line in there too, and it said, there's nothing stronger than a broken woman who has rebuilt herself. And so I know that that's it's very genderized with, and I know you don't identify as a woman, but wouldn't use herself, but the notion of it, right?
The message comes through.
There's nothing stronger than a human who has been broken and then rebuilds themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess, that's all I think we'll say about that particular person in particular. But in talking about different aspects of power, the trans teen story as the homecoming court, do you want to tell everybody about that? Because talk about somebody stepping into some power. Exactly.
So there's a trans teen. Her name is, I should say, well, I'm trying to be very, depending on how, a teenager who's transgender. Her name is Cassie Steiner. She lives somewhere in Ohio. Yay, go Bucks.
Oh my God. Whatever.
And she goes to a very, well, as her mother said, not very progressive school. And the story is that she got elected into homecoming court as the sophomore homecoming princess. And so a guidance counselor called her mother a couple days later and said, I need to tell you that this was a mean-spirited joke. However, that came about, and the school obviously was not prepared and equipped to handle it. So Cassie was like, fuck y'all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to own this, and I'm going to take the opportunity to make history as trans royalty, she called it, and step into my power, because when they go low, we're going to go high. And yeah, there's a picture of her on the football field waving her hand.
Good for Cassie
with her crown on.
Talk about you won't break my soul.
Yeah, she used it as an opportunity to promote acceptance.
Well, I'm really happy that Cassie chose to step into her power, and Mom was affirming of that and right along with her. But can I tell you what was the other thing that occurred to me from this story?
Yeah.
So how did that happen at that school?
Right.
And so, and I'm kind of speaking a little bit from like personal experience as a parent, that, parenting is really, really, really hard. It is. Everybody says the cliche, like it's hard, but then you are in it and you're like, this is really fucking hard. Right. Because it is what it is. Being a parent is one of the hardest things you're ever going to do, probably ever do. Right. And so I was thinking about this, about the kids at that school that said, let's vote this girl in as a joke. And I started thinking about, like, where did those kids get the information that like this was funny or something to do? And so I know we kind of always go to like, well, they must have learned it at home. And like, well, yes. I mean, there is absolutely a percentage of the population that, yeah, you are hearing anti-trans rhetoric from, you learn it in your house. But here's the thing. I think there is also, and this is the thing we don't talk about as much, I think there's absolutely the parents that are good parents, that they don't say anything anti-trans, but they don't say anything pro-trans either. And so where that gap is, that void gets filled with all of the messages that we're taking in elsewhere. And unfortunately for our trans community, the anti-trans rhetoric across the country is really, really loud.
Yeah.
And so it's filling that gap.
Yeah. So trans kids are getting it from so many angles.
Oh, I mean, like there's whole states that are like, yep, you're not going to, I mean, it was just about bathrooms for a while. And then this has been systematic in the way, well, at first it's going to be about bathrooms. Then it's going to be about sports. Then it's going to be about gender affirming care. Then it's going to be, if somebody acknowledges and gives you care, well, they're going to go to jail. Now it's, if you're in the state of Florida and you are a child and you have two dads or two moms or non-binary mom or whatever the makeup is for the LGBTQ community, and your teacher says, well, what did you do over the weekend? And you say, well, my two dads took me to the zoo. Like, that is against their policy. Oh, I'm like, can we really think about the message then that poor child is getting? I can't talk about my family. So I'm going to bring this back, but if you are a parent and maybe you think, well, I'm a really good person, right? Like I do all of the things. I'm there for my kids. I'm, doing the homework, supporting, loving, all of the things that they need, but you're not like doing that extra step of having those conversations. That's the noise then that's filling the void.
Yeah. Yep.
So what I have found, and I'm guilty of this myself, at one point, I had one kid that got really, really mixed up about some stuff and was using some language that I'm like, why the hell are you, what is coming out of your mouth? I don't understand what's coming out of your mouth right now. And what I recognized was that my voice inside our house was not loud enough to be drowning out the stuff that he had been taking in outside of our house. So I relate this to Kendi, who, if anybody has read his work in How to Be Anti-Racist, if we're talking about the LGBTQ community, or we're talking about, anti-Blackness, anti-people of color, anti-anything, whatever it is, these systems tend to, in this racism and oppression continues to thrive because of the, like, I'm a good person concept, right? Where it's like, well, I'm not actively participating in interpersonal racism. I'm a good person. I like everybody, but you're not actually taking the steps to be anti-racist or anti-oppression. And it because it's work. You have to be stepping in and filling that void. So I've told you this before, and I use this in training a lot. I tell people to think of it like the airport, right? When you go to the airport and you get on that people mover, and it's like the power of the people mover, you're all moving in the same direction. That's just dominant society. And dominant society is whiteness, and it's heteronormative. So if you're just like, well, I don't say anything, against the LGBT community, that means that you are on that people mover and you are moving in the direction of heteronormativity all the time.
Yeah.
You're just going with it.
Yeah.
Or race or whatever it is, able-bodied, all of the things. What you want to do is you want to be the person that is on that people mover, but you are moving in the opposite direction.
Right.
So you are talking about oppression. You are talking about it with your kids. You are saying to your kids, if they go to that fucking high school in Ohio, can we sit down and talk about how this is incredibly wrong, what happened? And even more so, why weren't they talking about that with their kids beforehand? Why did it have to be something like this to get you to start talking?
Yeah.
You don't have to have a gay family move in down the street. You don't have to be like, well, we've got a black friend. No, you have to be talking about this with your kids. And I'm guilty of it myself because being a parent is fucking exhausting. But if you're not taking that active conversation of leading and teaching your kids, even when it's going to be uncomfortable for their white straight feelings or your white straight feelings, then you're on that people mover and you are just moving with the dominance of society. And I hate to break it to you, but the dominance of our society is whiteness and to oppress. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yep.
And that makes people so uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, and when we talk about it with our kids, we actually teach our kids to step into their power of, they can, within their peer groups, they can then, there's that positive peer pressure, when they recognize and hear the words and the things that come out of their friends' mouth, and maybe their parents aren't saying something. And
right.
And I'm trying to think of how it becomes all connected, and that you can get
your friends to come with you.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Get your friends to come with you. Like, hey, we're gonna turn around and walk against the crowd because this is the right thing to do.
Yeah, it's amazing to me after like doing training for so many years on this. I consistently hear a couple things that are always the same, and primarily a lot of my training is with white folks, with white straight folks that are like, they genuinely want to learn how to be an ally, which is very like, that's great. But where they get stuck all the time is, well, I just don't know what to say. Maybe I just didn't hear it. And, it's like this inability, this cloak that we put over ourselves because we just don't want to see and acknowledge the real trauma and pain. And so we just don't listen. We just don't want to see it. And then when it's pointed out to us, we're like, well, I don't know what to say. I'm going to say the wrong thing, which is again, turning that focus onto you. That's fragility, right? When you're more worried about how you're going to look in a situation than the person that's actually being oppressed, what they're feeling. And so it's uncomfortable. And it's definitely because, especially like white women have been conditioned to be so perfect all the fucking time.
Yeah.
That for them to even step out, if they're hearing like misogyny or they're seeing, oppression, they're like, well, I have to be able to name it perfectly. I have to have a solution before I would step in and do anything. And I'm like, why? Can't you just ask the question? Can't you just say to these high school kids, why would you do that? Why would you do this to this child? Like, ask them the question. Yeah. You don't have to have an answer. You just have to have the courage to ask the question.
Well, and you said this to me one time, like, with the head, heart, hands healing, kind of like model of, you don't have to even know, why it feels off. You can feel that it feels off.
Yeah.
And then just being able to say, this, I don't know why, but this feels off. And I'm just going to name that part.
Mm-hmm.
And is that?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to go over it really quickly in case somebody missed like that part of our podcast. No, it's totally cool. But head, heart, hands healing is a really specific way to understand, like we're talking about equity work, right?
Yeah.
And so your head has to factually listen and learn about the experience of a lived experience that's different from yours. So like, you have to hear, what microaggression is. You have to hear what it feels like to have to code switch all the time, to not be believed, right?
Mm-hmm.
To have your story denied. Like all those things, they all have to get into your head.
Yeah.
And sometimes and I'm truthfully talking about like the way that we have taught US history, right? Where it's this erasure of everything that was so freaking harmful to our indigenous cultures, to people of color, because we don't want to feel bad as white people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, you have to learn it in your head. You have to learn how these systems work. It's not complicated.
Yeah. Your feelings are not more important than hurting another person.
So you have to factually learn that in your head. And usually once you have learned those things, you empathetically feel in your heart what it is. And you're never going to fully get it, right? Because, we can say like walk 1,000 miles in another person's shoes. Like you're never really going to, our lived experiences are ours, but you can open your heart to have empathy for another person. That's what leads you to your hands. And your hands then is when you start to do work as an advocate, right? Yeah. What happens is that at least, not everybody, so don't even fucking come for me. But what happens is that the head and the heart is painful.
Right.
There's a lot of pain in that. And so white people or straight people, they just want to jump right over that into their hands and just jump in and try to fix something. And that's what we refer to when we talk about white saviorism, right? Because we're not bothering to learn. And number one, it's the assumption that without learning your head and your heart, that you can just go to your hands and be actually helpful because you haven't bothered to learn shit. How many times have you ever walked into a situation where you're like, I am not going to learn anything about this at all. I'm just going to jump in and fix it and expect that that's going to work out well for you and not be really harmful to the people that you think you are better and more privileged and entitled to help without learning anything about their experience.
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes problematic. So anybody that's like, well, I really want to learn about advocacy work. And I'm like, I need you to get really, really comfortable being uncomfortable because you're going to sit there for a long time.
Yeah. Well, and would it be safe to say you never really just be prepared to never be totally comfortable with, because you're always learning.
And so again, it's that, as white as white people, we've been set up with this idea of exceptionalism. And really what it is proximity to whiteness, right? Because it's so dominant. It's so pervasive. It's so what has been seen. And it's everything from like, we could go into this forever and I won't because our podcast is an hour. But if you even go back and you look at whenever we reported about crime, how many times the hands that were shown in handcuffs were always consistently the same color.
Right.
So it is pervasive in our society that it has been set up like this for a really, really long time. And so to move past that, to acknowledge the harm and to repair and to build trust with communities, we are so guilty of even like the media just feeding those biases that were already there. So it's not something that gets fixed quickly,
right,
or without some serious intention and trust building. But like for people that listen to us, they're like, they just want to learn how to be a better ally. Like you absolutely can. I did. And I still fuck it up and fall on my face half the time.
Same. Yeah.
Because there's no expert in it. You're never going to be an expert in another person's lived experience. And if you think that that's what this is about, then I've got some really sad things to tell you about perfectionism and the veil of it. But maybe we'll save that for another podcast. Okay.
Stepping into our power.
Yeah. And this is the thing. Like, so folks are hearing me do it on this podcast right now. This is my job knowledge. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm told repeatedly, can you step into your power? And then when I do, inevitably it's going to make some other person uncomfortable. And they're going to be like, but could you not like that? Could you step into your power maybe a different way? Could you be nicer about it?
That would make me more comfortable.
Yeah, it would make me more comfortable if you acknowledged how powerful you are.
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
I swear to you, Alex, I hear it on like a weekly basis, though.
Oh.
I really want you to be a powerful voice, Kim, but maybe not in that way. Well, I don't know. What temperature should I go make your porridge over here? Do you want to come and like test out all the beds in my house too and tell me which one? Because I'm starting to feel like you're fucking Goldilocks.
Oh my gosh.
Take a sip of my water.
Okay. While you're drinking, should we talk about Landon Jones?
Mm-hmm.
So Landon, on another note, Landon Jones is a California high school senior who has been bullied by classmates since he was 5th grade for being gay. And there's a viral video out there. I got the article from NBC News, and he was like, you know what, y'all? I'm fucking done.
You won't break my soul.
I'm fucking done. I've taken it. I've cried. I'm hurt. I'm devastated, and I'm not gonna look the other way any longer.
Wow.
So he takes to TikTok. He makes a video, posts the camera footage from his home that has the people knocking on his front door, telling his dad, does Landon live here? He's a effing
F word,
an effing F word. And then like running away and hopping into a car. It's like, really? That's powerful for you? Like, that's the kids thinking that that's okay. Anyway, I don't know what their mommy taught them.
Their mommy might be a really wonderful, nice white lady.
Yeah, totally.
That just is not filling the gap.
The gaps, exactly.
Or she could be a totally bigoted asshole. I mean, either's possible.
And I said that, and I don't know. That's just my own anger of like,
we don't know.
Let's all do better.
But truthfully, as a parent, and like I know for you too, like you sometimes, this is like the humility of being a parent too, right? Is that you do get glimpses sometimes like from your kids where you see them do something and you're like, oh shit, man, I kind of fucked that one up. I got to circle back and have the conversation because, you know, our kids are growing up in a world right now where Herschel Walker, who's running for public office, said trans kids don't go to heaven. So I need like folks to think about how loud that voice is and that this is a person getting one of the highest elected positions in our country. So if your kid is hearing that and they're not hearing anything from you to say, dude, that fucked up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would love to know how these politicians think that they've got a direct line into God too. And like, what are we doing wrong in our lives that we don't have that? Is that sent by certified mail?
Maybe.
Maybe.
I was going to say something about the Herschel Walker thing and I forgot, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, he also has been absolutely adamant that there should be no exceptions to abortions.
Except he paid the woman.
Except he paid one of his girlfriends
to have an
get
abortion.
An abortion.
Yeah.
So apparently like his talk line into God not only says that trans kids aren't going to heaven, but that he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh, I remember I was going to say, so usually the person with the lowest EQ in the room is the loudest.
Oh shit. So I'm really loud sometimes too.
I didn't mean for that to be like.
No, I got you, dude.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do. Herschel Walker right now is really fucking loud.
Yeah. Dick.
He is a dick. I want him and DeSantis to like.
Well, and I'm gonna say, yeah, and that we know we don't hate men. We have lots of lovely men in our lives, and I'm just calling.
I do.
Yeah,
I got lots of great men in my life, but I've also had a lot of experiences that I'm like,
were they just
what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Can we get our shit together?
If you want to be in charge, you need to do the things that actually show that you have the ability to lead something.
So I'm going to talk about, this is I think the last thing we're going to talk about is today is like, you know, because you just gave us a really good segue of what is going on with men. And again, like, save your fucking letters. Like, I don't care. I'm not talking about all men. I have tons of great men that are in my life that I've worked with. Like, just put your fingers off the keyboard. Like, cause I don't fucking care. I am a petty bitch and I will say whatever I want. So I have had this experience recently at work, and you and I talked about this. I knew that I was going to end up taking a shit ton of space today.
Yeah, go for it.
But I've been having this experience at work where I'm pretty open about the fact that I work for public media. I work for one of the 25 major markets. It's a television station and 2 radio stations. One of the radio stations is it's a jazz station, and it's internationally known. I guess there's just not a lot of that sort of specialty niche market. They say it's a jazz station, but it's also like deeply tied to like our Spanish speaking communities, because over the weekends we've got everything from like, you know, different like Brazilian music and Chicano music and all salsa con jazz and like all these amazing shows. And the station's been around for like 37 years. Long story short, some shit got fucked up, and some people that had been on the air are no longer on the air. Two of them were fired after the organization trying to work for a really, really, really long time through performance management, and it just didn't work. And then 2 people, one was a volunteer and had left, and one was a part-time host and they left. And like, this happens. And radio is one of those businesses, like, most people know this, but like, you could, especially in commercial, like, you can have a favorite radio station and like turn it on the next day and it'll be a completely different format. Because, you know, and we won't get into like the mechanics of that or the why of that, but like, that's actually pretty common in radio, that people get fired, stations get bought, they will change their formats overnight.
Okay.
Entire shows of people that have been on like together for a while, they'll be like, yeah, it's not working, the energy isn't working. They'll get plucked and go to another market. Like, it's pretty common that happens in radio. Long story short, it happened with us. Over a 6-month period, 4 hosts that were really well known in the community are no longer on airs with our station. So this created this space with our community of, they're angry. There's a lot of people that are really angry because, and I honestly get it. And I think too, like, and I don't know if you feel this way, Alex, but like, living through the pandemic the last couple of years, like, we've had enough change. Like, can stuff just not, like, I don't want any big changes. I want to know that like, I'm going to turn in my car or, you know, turn music on while Rosie's like going to town on my foot.
She's under, yeah.
But you just, you know, you're used to these people being in your life, and then one day they're not.
Yeah.
And I do think emotionally, with what's happened to us through COVID, is we have just an inability to be able to manage stuff like that the way that we used to. So over the last couple months, we've been holding these community conversations where the community can come in and tell us like what they think and what they feel. This dog is like, what is going on with
She's feeling the feels.
She's like, yeah. I'm like, you're a special little creature. So long story short, we've been having these community conversations, and they're heated because people are mad. But my observation of doing this the last couple of months, because I facilitate these meetings for the station, which means like, I'm the person that's like, okay, like, these are the rules of how we're going to engage with each other. I take all of the questions, I moderate for other people. And really my job there is to make sure that everybody in the room is heard.
Yeah.
Take a guess who keeps showing up at these meetings and literally just takes them over.
White straight males.
I don't know if they're straight, but I'm assuming that I would say they present that way.
Okay.
But it's been our white males, older white males.
Right.
They have come in and have been like, they try to overtalk everyone. They don't follow the like parameters in which we give for engagement. They are angry. They are entitled. And it is some of the hardest facilitations I've ever had to do, because I'm literally like, we have heard you. We would like to hear from this person over here. Cuts them off.
But my perspective is the most important.
And where it's made me like really fucking depressed
Yeah.
is I'm like, right, they act this way because they've always been able to.
Right.
That's their norm. They don't even recognize that they're doing something offensive and oppressive to the other people in the room because that's just been their experience.
Yeah.
So earlier or this past week, and this has been going on for weeks, and I feel sorry for you because I come home from these and I'm like, I can't talk to anyone. I'm such an asshole. And then you make me like a peanut butter and jelly
really
sandwich. And you're like, it's okay, honey. I sleep in your armpit and it's fine.
Yeah.
But what this past week, we had a person come who was a white older male, and he was so obnoxious. And so, you know, of course, it's a meeting where people don't know me. And so the first thing I always do is I introduce myself with my pronouns. Hi, my name is Kim. My pronouns are she, her. Well, I can see, and you know, for trained facilitators, like, and this is like a little like side note, if you're ever in one of these like group meetings, the facilitator knows. They know, they see your energy. We are trained to like scan the room and see like where your hot spots are.
Okay.
Right. And so, you know, we do things like we'll rock back and forth in our seat. We'll be like, you know, getting ready to get in there. So like, I can see this dude coming from like a mile away. I'm like, here
like body language tells.
Yeah. I'm like, here we fucking go. Here's the older white guy that's going to be like, well, you will all now listen to me because, you know, really we want something new. So please. So he takes he first of all, everyone else in the room goes by the rule of like you raise your hand a little bit and wait for the moderator, who's me, the fucking queer ass woman, being like, hi, my name is Kim, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm going to lead you through this facilitation, which he did not like. So he doesn't even raise his hand, completely cuts somebody off. He's rocking back and forth in his chair. And I'm like, here it fucking comes. He's like, well, you know, your organization, you guys care about pronouns more than people. And I'm like, oh my fucking God. I guess it's beyond his pay grade to be like, well, pronouns actually are people, dude. You have them. I have them. We all have pronouns. The world's been spinning this way for a long time. Welcome. But then he goes, so rude to me, so rude to the other woman who is a Latina woman who's leading it with me, so rude to the program director who's a Latino man, actually puts his hand up in the Latino man's face and tells him, you don't know anything. And so I am working my ass off in this facilitation to basically just be like, hey, we've heard from you. We've heard from you. Can we get some other voices in the room? Like it's going on and on and on. Finally, the thing ends. And afterwards, I'm like, you know what? I guess I just feel like throwing, like, I can't let this go.
Right.
Because when he said the comment about, well, you care about, you know, people and pronoun, I don't even fucking care what he said. It was rude. And when he did it, there were a lot of people in the room and there was like a gasp when he said it. People were like, oh, like that's not okay what he just did. But at the same time, none of us did anything in the moment. And I kind of stand by that because he was escalated.
Okay. So you made the call in that moment to just let it go.
I made the call in that moment that I'm like, I'm not going to give him, because it was clear he was looking for a fight.
Right. Okay.
I'm like, and I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to take the wind literally out of your sails and just look at you and be like, okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. But at the end of it, and everybody's kind of like milling around and leaving, I was like, you know, I asked my co-facilitator, I said, you know this guy a little bit. Like, is this okay for me to go up and say something to him about his comments? And she was like, yeah. Totally go and say something to him. So I walk over and I'm like, hey, you know, hi, Kim. You know, can I have a moment of your time? And he's like, yes. And I'm like, okay. And so I just said to him, I'm like, listen, you know, pronouns are people and it's a core value here. It is something that we respect. I'm going to ask, like, if you come to these facilitations again, like, it's just a core value of ours. We're going to respect people's pronouns and we're going to respect the usage of them.
Yeah.
He waved his hand in my face. I guess I was like a fly. I mean, it was literally like he was trying to like, I'm like, is there a fly by my head? Like, what's happening?
Oh my gosh.
And then he said,
the audacity, that
I should be dismissed from the room.
Oh my God.
And that I didn't belong there.
Oh.
So normally, Alex, when I'm told that I don't belong in a room, I can pretty quickly whip some shit up to be like, oh, I don't, do I? But that day, like, I was just like, heard. And I just chose not to engage with him any farther. I just walked away because I'm like, not today, Satan. Like, I just don't have time.
Yeah.
So afterwards, I was with my colleagues, and all of my colleagues saw what he had done.
Mm-hmm.
So now there's people even more upset because they're like, this just isn't who we are as an organization. But yet we keep allowing the space for this particular identity to just come in and think that they own the joint, and that they can just run over everybody else, say incredibly harmful, hurtful things. And we're all like sitting in the room like, we're just fucking stuck with you. So, I got up the next morning and I was like, yeah, no, here, hold my drink. We're going to do something about this. And so, the wonderful thing about my organization and the boss that I work for is she didn't need to be in the room for her to believe me, because she is powerful and she has done the work that she needed to do.
Yeah.
And so she was like, oh no, he's not coming back. Didn't seem to care how much money he gave the organization or who he was. It was just like, no, you don't get to come in and be that disrespectful to a group of employees who work for fucking public media.
Right. There are consequences to your actions.
There's consequences. And so I'll see what happens when I go back to work tomorrow, because this just happened. But I just, if we're talking about stepping into power, this is the last thing I'm going to say about it, and then we can wrap this. What are we doing that we continually keep the lens on what the older white male says, and that their rules are the rules to go, right? Because we're still bumping up against that power dynamic. And the second observation was, I was believed by my coworkers and my boss. And I know the reason that I was believed is because my proximity to whiteness, and that we had been through this situation many times before. And it had been women and people of color that had been naming the microaggressions that were happening to them. And we have learned off of those experiences and listening to them how we need to respond. And so yet again, this is being built off of the backs of people of color.
Right.
That are bringing these things to us. And as we are becoming better at the head, heart, hands healing, we're learning better of how to respond. But it's the people that came before me of why I was listened to. And that hurts. Yeah. It shouldn't have been like that. We should have listened the first time anybody ever brought this to us. It shouldn't have had to been, okay, we're getting better. We're getting better. We're getting better. And then a white queer woman says, and it's like, yep, we believe her.
Right.
So it's been a really, really interesting, like, a couple months, just seeing how these different dynamics play out. And so I'm taking up a ton of space on here today, but I guess I just put it out there of like the time and intention to do advocacy work, whether it's, no matter how you identify or what community that you're looking to align with, just keep in mind that if you are not of that identity, if you go through, learning the things that you have to in your head, understanding it in your heart before you get your hands, because I'm definitely not going to promote you to be a savior in it, but keeping in mind like how much we believe people when it's not their lived experience, but they're speaking up for someone else's. And the reason is because we don't see them as being advantageous for themselves.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of just like what's been going on when we're talking about power. So like on one hand, I'm like, well, I stepped into my power with this man and was so beaten back by it that I had to be like, I don't even have it. I don't have it today.
Yeah. I
can't do this.
Well, and it reminds me of like that, basically the people like that view power as a, and I've learned this, from you and Dr. J, power is a pizza or a pie. And it's not. No, it's not. Yeah.
He would have lost nothing to sit in that room and say nothing about pronouns.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
There was nothing going on in there that we would be.
But instead, he chose to harm someone and harm an entire community of people because he was uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah. And what did it get him?
Kicked out.
It got him kicked out. Truthfully, if he would acknowledge, hey, I don't understand. I didn't even realize, blah, blah, whatever it is that he wants to make amends with, he could be absolutely, you can circle back. But I believe he sent me an email which I won't even bother to read. I read the first sentence and I was like, this isn't an apology. This is doubling down on why he's right. I'm like, and I don't need to hear it.
He's still on the defense.
Yeah. I'll keep people updated of what happens with him, but I just there's good and bad of stepping into your power, because in that situation, inevitably it is my job to facilitate these meetings. And sometimes it means that you get someone who's just going to be determined to belittle you in front of people. And much less being a queer woman, he did not like that. And boy, did he let me know. And in front of like a good 100 people. So power, even when you have it, even though I have it, and even when I try to use it, sometimes, man, you get a little sucker punch there, and you got to push away from the table. You got to take care of yourself, and then you got to come back in.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what we did this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. Our friend Andrea and I have been talking about, as we're building some of the howtobequeer.com stuff, and we were looking at mission statements and values and visions, and we were looking at different companies, and this conversation just makes me think of, we looked up Nike's.
Yeah.
And Nike's, their values, there's 5 things. There's do the right thing, always be on the offense, always. So versus the defense, and serve athletes. And then athletes has a little asterisk, and they define athletes by, if you have a body, you are an athlete.
Okay.
Serve the future of sport, and then win as a team. So that's applicable to like a lot of things.
It is.
So anyway,
yay Nike.
Yay Nike. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, well,
that's it for today, right?
I guess that's it for today. If you all want to share any of your stories, or you got comments or questions, you can email us at howtobequeerpodcast@gmail.com. You can also email me, alex@howtobequeer.com. Well, I just said that backwards. Hold on. howtobequeerpodcast@gmail.
I don't know. I don't know any of this shit. I didn't even know that we had email.
This is Kim. You just sit and look cute and do the one. No. Just kidding. Okay. You can email us at howtobequeerpodcast@gmail.com, or me, Alex, at howtobequeer.com. So go check us out, and on Facebook, Instagram. Go check out Youth Scene on Facebook and Instagram as well. Again, visit their website at youthscene.org. And thanks for listening, y'all. We want to hear your story. We want to hear your stories too.
I know. I really love when people send us emails.
Yeah. Okay.
Love it.
Love you.
Okay. Say bye.
Okay. Bye.